Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Conversations from Stritch. My name is Dave Livingston, president of Lewis University. Very glad to be here this afternoon with Dr. Christopher Sint. And we, last week we had a really, fascinating conversation from my point of view about the accreditation of our computer engineering program. And today we're going to be really excited to introduce you to the program director, as well as head of all sorts of things on campus, for a new graduate program that we have on campus, which we'll get to later. Wanted to point out that it is 7 weeks from Thanksgiving Day. So if you are excited about turkey and stuffing, it's only 7 weeks away. And I feel like it's a strange thing because 7 weeks away and it's such beautiful weather outside. So I feel like we got an extra week of summer. So I hope students, faculty, staff, are enjoying the campus. It is really gorgeous this time of year. The trees are turning and the weather's great. And I've seen some students walking across campus, not in their extra jackets, but enjoying the weather. So we're really glad to have that. We are approaching the second 8-week term. So for some of our students, or some of our graduate students, some of the students that are taking some of our night classes, that second 8-week term. And so you can still sign up for classes for the second 8 weeks if you want to do that. And of course, in a few weeks, we'll be registering for the spring semester. We made some announcements last week about the format, the classes, and the type of format for those classes will be available. As Dr. Sint said last week, we're really working hard to make sure that people are able to find the class that they want, also in the format that they want, and have that same multiple types of formats. And I think I say it every week, but the balance that we're trying to achieve, it's about the way we deliver classes, but also what we're doing across the entire campus is really about guaranteeing that students receive an excellent educational experience here at Lewis, but also that we maintain a safe and healthy environment for everyone. And we really want people to continue to abide by the basic guidelines. Wash your hands often, keep your face covering on, stay 6 feet apart from those people that you're around. And that's something that people should maintain really throughout their day. Even when you're back in the residence halls, you can watch a movie together but stay 6 feet apart, or be in the same room together but continue to wear your mask if you're going to be close to somebody. We want to make sure that you stay healthy. So thank you, and we're doing a great job so far, so thank you for that. We did have a question that came in before we started the show that was about commencement this December. So Chris, welcome again. So glad that you're here.
Thank you.
But do you want to, I know you have some other announcements as well, and you have a letter that'll be coming out today to the full community. But have we made a decision in terms of commencement for this this fall commencement?
Yes, we have, and hello everyone, and thank you so much for your patience around the commencement decision, as we've had a team of people working really hard on planning commencement and making it as great as it can possibly be. So I will be sending out a message to the community as I typically do on Thursday afternoons, and that will include some detail about commencement, and then there'll be a lot of follow-up from the registrar and from our other commencement members of our commencement team. But we will be doing commencement virtually and live in December on the typical dates, and we'll send, or on the pre-planned dates that everyone has. But we will be sending out more specifics today and in future dates about how to engage in that virtual commencement. It will include commencement ceremonies for the spring of 2020 commencement class, as well as for the summer and fall commencement classes, all in the same weekend. So more on that later today, and then a lot more from the registrar about how to go about preparing for it and signing up for it. May I continue with my round
go
of
ahead. That's great.
announcements?
Yes.
I have a few other things to announce before introducing our guest. They're on this Saturday, October 10th, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We will we will have COVID-19 testing on campus. This is similar to the testing that we have from the Illinois Department of Public Health a few weeks ago. Same, again, it's the Illinois Department of Public Health testing. This Saturday, there is no appointment necessary, no medical insurance necessary, no referrals or symptoms required. So you just drive up and follow the instructions, and you can get testing this Saturday. So we encourage anyone in our community and in our local community who is paying attention here to take advantage of that opportunity. And I will say that that opportunity will continue in our discussions with IDPH as well as Will County. There will be continued and increasing public testing opportunities on our campus. President Livingston reminded us of many things related to remembering to abide by the Flyers Promise. I'll just add to that list and say that, again, please do the daily health screening on the app and use the QR codes. They are mandatory and really helpful and essential for us to be able to do our work in keeping people safe and healthy. And then I guess I'll say quickly, somewhat, that we did do a little more testing this week with the county or significant more testing on Tuesday of this week, and we have not heard the results of that test yet. So I'm a little bit reticent to say anything about what the tracker will say tomorrow when we update it. I think we have one more positive case that we know of today, but we may receive the results of Tuesday's testing before tonight or tomorrow morning. So, our numbers are still very low, but I don't know exactly what they will be reported tomorrow because we may or may not get those results today. But the work that everyone is doing to follow the Flyers Promise, to do everything we've already talked about today is really making a difference, and the numbers are continuing to be low in terms of positive cases, number of people in quarantine and isolation, but we know that will ebb and flow, and we must remain vigilant about all of the work that we have to do to keep it down. And now I'm going to change gears a little bit and make a couple of other announcements. The October 15th is the deadline for residential students to request housing after Thanksgiving break. So if you are interested in doing that, please let us know. Again, in the email that I send out later, there'll be a link to the form that you have to fill out. If you have questions about it, contact Residence Life. And I think also Residence Life is doing some work to provide more information about what it's going to be like on campus. And I might leave it to them to be more clear about that, but we just want to be clear that it's not a typical vacation type time on the campus. There'll be dining, there will be our instruction will be virtual, but there will be resources to support students on campus and dining available on campus and other support areas that's a little bit unlike a typical like spring break kind of situation. And then President Livingston mentioned we are planning for spring, getting lots of feedback from faculty and students around ways of making the spring semester as rich and meaningful as possible, and we'll be sending out a lot of updates about that as in the next few weeks about things like move-in and how we will do various parts of the spring semester. I think that may be my final. Yeah, that's my final. Do you want to talk about anything else before?
Well, just a few things. Yeah. I mean, we had one question come in that I want to address, and then, I guess it's more underlining a few things that you said, Chris. I think what you keep coming back to, which is, one of the through lines. There's several of these that have been going on as we've, met week in and week out and tried to communicate with the community, is that we're really committed to delivering an excellent experience for our students in the classroom, in all sorts of different settings, and certainly you talked about commencement. We want to make that experience meaningful and impactful for families, but there are limitations, and that is what we're, it's this balancing act that we're doing every day in class. We wish that everybody could meet normally and that everything was, but that's not the world that we're in right now. And so as we balance out everybody's safety we continue to be committed. And I think
Yeah.
you've mentioned that in so many different ways, so many different areas of the campus. And I just want to, again, thank our faculty and staff and really our student leaders as well. The students who, I know you met with some students last week to hear some feedback from them about how their experience is going. We talked about that a little bit last week. You and I have talked about some of the things you've heard more recently. You've met with the student government. We really want everyone to know that our entire community is committed to delivering a great experience for students in every aspect of their educational life, and we want your feedback so that we can continue to make it better. We had a question that came in from an employee about whether we will be having some employees working more remotely, certainly not all of them, and as you said, that time between Thanksgiving and Christmas is a little unusual time because we're going to have a couple hundred students on campus. They have to apply for that in terms of housing. So we will have people working on campus and making sure that people have a great experience. But we will also have some employees that will continue to work from home remotely. When we get back in January, what I would say about the general notion of the question is make sure you work with your supervisor, those of you that are employees, to understand the expectations that your supervisor has in terms of whether it's you'll be returning to campus to work on January 5th or 6th, I don't know which day that is that we come back, or whether you might be coming back on the 12th, or whether you might be coming back fully to campus on the 14th or 15th. But if you could work with your supervisor, make sure you have that conversation. In general, our employees are doing different things depending on which department they're in. And we're really grateful for all of them, whether they're delivering their professional work remotely or in person. What we're benefiting the students in terms of how we do it, and we really want students to give us feedback and employees to give us feedback on how that's going. So one of our great employees we want to introduce now.
Can I say something about that before we do that?
Yeah.
I think that actually connects those two questions or those two announcements about both staff work in this time period as well as commencement. One thing that's noticeable to me is we've talked a lot about, I think, in this conversations from Stritch about teaching and the way we're learning to teach online and hybrid environments, and we can ask our guest about this, how for a lot of our faculty, some were extremely experienced at it, back in March. A lot have learned a lot over this time period. But I think that's also true for everything else we're doing,
yes.
and that our commencement committee not only would want me to say that they are completely committed to making the experience meaningful, but also that we've in some ways learned and studied and thought about, researched how people are doing a great job with making large virtual events special, and what really works, and what people were trying back in May at many universities, and what worked and didn't work. And so I feel like there's a lot of wisdom and expertise that is going to be on display, with our December commencement, and as we're all learning how to do our work. And I think that's true for staff too. It's
absolutely
much more nuanced, and I think we have a real commitment in many offices to experiment with new technologies or different technologies about interacting with students when we're not in person, and we certainly will be in person, and just discovering what types of meetings work better in person versus which ones work better virtually, or even the difference between on the phone and in a Zoom call or whatever. All of that is continuing to evolve, and I think we're continuing to put a high bar on improvement there. So.
And just to wrap that up, and then I invite you to introduce our guests. But we say this often, that we're a learning organization. We have many of our alumni that work here at Lewis, and we want to make them lifelong learners. And the reality is, if they're on the commencement committee, they're learning as we go how to make commencement better every year. And yeah, this is a totally different thing than they've faced in the past. They always try to make commencement better as they go through it year by year, but this year, very different way to present it. But we are learning from other organizations and from what we've done in the past. And just grateful for all our employees for staying on that learning curve.
Yeah.
Really grateful for that. So, Chris?
So I'd really, it's my pleasure to introduce our guest, Dr. Tina Veale, who is the chair of Rehabilitation and Health Sciences and the director of our Master of Science in Speech Language Pathology program here at Lewis. And I'm going to introduce Tina, and then I see that she's with us on the screen. But I want to just say, like as we've done with other faculty in previous weeks, I'd like to give a little bit of a introduction about who she is and welcome her to the show. So Tina she's in her, I believe, 3rd year at Lewis. Before coming to Lewis, she has founded 2 other graduate programs in speech language pathology, Midwestern University. Most recently, she teaches courses in neuroscience, including human brain dissection, child language development and disorders, social communication disorders, including autism, motor speech disorders, and research methods. Her scholarship includes authorship of a variety of materials for the study of neuroscience and resource books for guiding intervention for children with autism and social communication disorder. So I'm so glad to welcome you, Tina. Welcome and hello.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, Tina.
And we would always want to have you visit and talk about speech language pathology and its many and all of your research interests there, but we especially wanted to invite you on to talk with us today because the Master of Science in Speech Language Pathology is a new program on campus. It began in June, credited in March, and you are the founder, and it's been such a pleasure to work with you as the program has found life. It began with an idea with us, and even before I was here, and now we have students, and it's always such an amazing transition when the students are here. So also, we started the speech language pathology program in the middle of this pandemic. So hard for everyone, I know, but maybe a little bit different and harder, or differently hard to start a brand new program in the middle of a pandemic when the way we're doing everything is a little bit not even the way we planned. So I guess that's our first question: is how is it going, and how did the big first term go? And I guess we're in the almost the middle of our second term now.
Well, thanks for asking. And again, thank you for having me to talk about the new speech language pathology program at Lewis University. You're right. This has been a different experience in terms of starting a new program. I've joked to some of our colleagues and friends that, I started this from our extra bedroom in our house, and in many ways it was true. We were all at a distance, and one of the interesting things is that even though we're in our second semester of study, all of our students and faculty and staff, we have not all been together in the same place at any one time. And it almost seems impossible that that's true, because we've all worked so hard to unite and come together in our united mission of educating our students and providing them the best opportunities that they can and the best preparation that they can to realize their dream of becoming a speech language pathologist, but also to come together as a team that will serve people in the community who have communication disorders. And I just can't say enough about our faculty and our staff and our students and how committed everyone has been to this. And so We still look forward to that day when we get together on Lewis's campus and we get to have that moment where we're all in the same place at the same time and can enjoy that together. But in the meantime, we're going about our work and everybody's of good spirits. And I can tell you the faculty are doing an amazing job of preparing really dynamic classes in their areas of expertise. Each one of our faculty has years of clinical experience in specific specialties of speech language pathology, and they're preparing and delivering courses in ways that they've never done before, not just remotely, but as we'll talk about during this segment, we're delivering courses in 8-week terms in accelerated fashion, and that's new to everyone too. The students are just doing great, like beyond our expectations. I'm happy to say we have 37 students, and I have no doubt that 37 of them are going to be the most dynamic speech language pathologists trained in a special Lewis kind of way. So we're just really excited with how things have gone, and everybody has worked really, really hard to make it happen. And we've stayed well and productive and in class, and so we're very excited about the launch, even under the unusual conditions.
Yeah, and we're going to get to some of the specifics, I know, in some of these questions about the SLP program. I have shared with you in the past that my mom was a speech language pathologist, but not everybody on here, and I guess I'm especially, I'd love to hear you talk, because we're going to get in some more details about the unique ways that you're doing clinicals and approaching things and the admissions process and all those kinds of things. But could we back up a little bit? If you imagine a first-year student that's sitting in their residence hall right now and decided to, click this on and knows nothing about speech and language pathology, but also doesn't know what they want to do with their life, could you give me a little sense, and I mean this in a kind of broad sense, what does a speech and language pathologist do? I happen to know the answer to that because my mom did it, but can you just explain to us the broad sense of this field? And then we'll get into some more of the details later on the clinicals and the expertise, but what would a 18-year-old who doesn't really know much about this want to know if they wanted to start thinking about this as a possible profession?
Well, that's a great question, and I love to answer that question. I always start by saying that speech language pathology is one of the most dynamic professions that I know of. And of course, I'm biased, but if I had to make my choice all over again, I certainly would become a speech language pathologist. It has been an amazing career and continues to be. Speech language pathologists are often known as speech therapists. And our job is to work with people of all ages, from birth to into the elder ages, with communication and swallowing problems. And so in speech language pathology, you can find yourself working with children in schools or in preschool settings, in clinical settings, like private clinical settings, or you can find yourself working with adults in hospitals, in other kinds of healthcare facilities, private clinics, etc. So we really work with, you can find yourself in all kinds of different jobs, working for all kinds of different agencies and in all kinds of different locations, but also working with children or adults. Many SLPs specialize in one of the disorder areas that we work in. We help people to improve their speech articulation or the clarity of how they speak. We work with language. And when I say that, I mean language is a very broad area, helping people understand what other people are saying to them if they're having difficulty with that, or helping people learn how to put their thoughts into words, into grammatical sentences that have meaning and can communicate exactly what they want to say. And this can be very hard for a lot of people. We work with people who stutter. And we work with people who have voice problems, who have a hard time with being able to produce a clear and strong voice. And that's just really the tip of the iceberg, because there are other areas that we work in too. So there's a lot of different areas of specialty. Chris mentioned that one of my areas of expertise is autism spectrum disorders. That's one thing that I've done quite a lot of, and that's an area of expertise that many SLPs will choose to specialize in. So it's a great profession where you can work in a lot of different settings. You can change your settings over time, and you can work with children or adults. And it's just very fulfilling to be able to help people be able to say what they want to say, have other people understand them, and to see them be able to be successful in education and in their social, at school, at home, and at work, because they have improved communication skills.
Yeah, and I know Chris has some questions. Just one comment that I'd make about that as I hear you talk, it's such a lonely and kind of dispiriting thing to not be understood, to feel like I have this thing that I want to say, I want to share this with you, and you don't understand me. And my closest to that for myself is when I try to communicate in another language, where I feel like people just, they can't understand what I'm saying, and I'm in this environment and I want to say, isn't that a beautiful waterfall, or gosh, this food is wonderful. And I think there's just a loneliness and a sense of frustration. And you as professionals, you kind of literally open up the doors of the prison. Like, I have these ideas and I can't communicate them to you, and you allow people to do that, whether it's after a stroke or, as you say, a 2 or 3 year old who just can't articulate. And I just think that it's such a wonderful profession, because you really are liberating people in the truest sense of the word, because we are social creatures and want to communicate with each other.
Yeah, and listening to both of you talk about this, I think the next thing I want to ask about is, who are these students who are attracted to come to the program? And we obviously don't want to have extreme detail here, but I just wonder if you could tell us a little bit about the admissions process. How do we look for people? I'm sure it was especially challenging during this COVID-19 era. I know people started applying long before that started, but just who are the people who are attracted, and how do you evaluate them when they do apply?
Well, thanks again for asking that question, because I like to talk about our students. We have 37 graduate students in our first inaugural cohort of speech language pathology students, and we really were looking for 30. And so we were very fortunate to have such a good group of students to choose from, that we were able to have 37 students come and join us. And, these students have come from schools all over the country. Many of them, most of our students have some connection to the Chicagoland area. Some of them went away to school and then they're coming back here. Many of them are from around here, but we also have quite a number of students from out of state. And we have students from very diverse backgrounds. In speech language pathology, we have 96% of all SLPs are female. So we do look for gender diversity in addition to ethnic diversity when we're trying to diversify our class. And we have one man in our group, so I'm proud to say that, because we always like to add to our ranks there. And we have a very ethnically diverse group of students as well. So we're really pleased about that. That's an ASHA, an American Speech Language Hearing Association initiative to improve the diversity of speech language pathologists. It has been for 20 years. And so we're very committed to that here. But mostly what I want to tell you about our students is how passionately they want to be speech language pathologists. And, when students apply to become a speech language pathologist, what often happens is that we get so many applications to be in graduate school that students have a hard time getting a seat and getting into a program. And many times, and this happened to several of the students that we've admitted here, they've been told at other schools that they're just not good enough to get one of those seats. And that is just something I don't believe in. I don't think that any of us can tell the true measure of another person in that kind of way. And so what we've done in admissions here at Lewis is we've tried to remove the barriers to applying. We've tried to make it a streamlined pathway. And basically, we have a very complicated and complex way of evaluating the files that are submitted to us, the applications that are submitted to us. But essentially, if I see that a student can successfully get A's and B's in our graduate classes, and we can judge this by their performance in their undergraduate programs the last couple of years or in their communication sciences and disorders courses, if we can see that, this student is very likely to be able to get A's and B's, because you do have to maintain a 3.0 to graduate with a master's degree at Lewis University. And in most universities, that's the standard. If I can see that, then that student is invited for an interview. And we interviewed every student who met that criterion. And that's quite a commitment on the part of the faculty. So those students came and I interviewed them individually. The two faculty members interviewed them in a group so that we could see them interacting with other students in a group. And we would invite about 10 to 15 students on any interview day who could come. So we had a small group in each of our interview days. We could do these group interviews. And then we did spontaneous writing samples. And the students got to know us and we got to know them. And essentially, we were able to see and hear their stories and see if we felt that they would be engaged with us and committed to doing the hard work it takes to move from being a very good student to becoming an entry-level speech language pathologist. And, I had many students tell me that they had been told that they just should give up and they shouldn't apply anywhere. And I'm so sad for them that happened, because I can tell you that I didn't just give them a chance and a seat in this class. I was very confident in what they would do. And so far, I can tell you that they're on the right path and doing just fine. They're all very hard workers. And beyond that, they're just excelling. They're impressing every one of us in what they can do. And that just goes to show you that when someone is committed to working hard and becoming what they want to be in life, sometimes it's really worth giving them a chance and helping them and mentoring them along so that they can do that. And that is the Lewis way. That is the Lasallian philosophy. And so I'm so pleased that we've been able to bring students in and help to walk with them on this path toward becoming a speech language pathologist. And almost to a student, they've told us that they felt like they were treated as a person during this process. And of course, we would want nothing less for anyone who applies to Lewis University.
Right. So, Dr. Veale, could you, I love the way you describe the holistic kind of admission process and the way that you really are taking seriously the person who's in front of you. But again, I want to go back to this student, and hopefully more male students, but a male or female first-year student at Lewis, and it could be, of course, anywhere in the country at any undergrad. Are there 3 or 4 undergraduate majors that the majority of the students who tend to go into this field tend to come in? And I know we have a holistic view, so I'm assuming it's not going to be physics that you're going to tell me, but maybe it is, because I don't really know the answer to this question. It's a genuine question. But are there 2 or 3 places, and then of course maybe somebody could major in anything as long as they had certain classes, but what are the majors that people, again, if a first-year student wanted to go into this, what might they want to major in at Lewis?
Well, that is a good question. And you're right that in speech language pathology, most programs, including our program, will accept any bachelor's degree with a certain set of prerequisites. And those are really carefully outlined on our webpage. So I won't get into all of that. But the most common majors that seek to come into speech language pathology to go to graduate school would be psychology, is probably number one. And or counseling. A lot of people, if there is an undergraduate degree in counseling, a lot of them will come over because that's a therapist kind of job. And so many times individuals will move over to speech language pathology or vice versa. Social work, and then education and special education. Those would be the most common majors.
To follow from that, tell us a little bit about the way the program's designed. What are some of the classes or some of the distinctive features of our master's program?
Well, this is a 2 full year program, so 6 semesters. It starts in the summer, which is unusual, but we do that because about 3/4 of all brand new speech language pathologists go to work in public schools. And so we want our students to graduate in a spring term, since it's 6 full semesters, so that they compete strongly for the public school jobs in their first year out. And that's why we start in the summer. So it is a 73 credit hour program. And the unique feature that we have here in terms of our curriculum design, I foreshadowed earlier, which is that we teach every semester has 2 8-week terms. And in the summer, we shorten that up to 2 6-week terms. So students get a little bit of break between summer and fall and spring and summer. But these are accelerated terms of study. We modeled this after the graduate nursing program here, and that's a very common model in graduate nursing. But it's not common at all in speech language pathology. So this is a really unique feature. So students can focus on the 2 to 3 didactic classes that they have for 6 to 8 weeks, and then they can turn their attention in the second 6 or 8 week term to a very clinical focus. And that's another kind of standout feature that we have, which is that beginning in the very first term, students start clinical experiences and have them all the way throughout the program. And those clinical experiences are a little different in that we do not have a university clinic here at Lewis, and that was by design. The most common way of training students is to have a campus clinic where clients come in from the community and faculty supervise the students providing the services there. But a lot of speech language pathology students have told me over the years that doesn't seem like a very real world experience to them when they're treating clients down the hall from their faculty offices. And so what we've done here at Lewis is we have looked into the community and found underserved populations. In other words, we went out and we looked for places where a speech language pathologist was needed, maybe desperately needed, but no SLP was available, usually almost always because of a lack of funding. And we have contracted with those agencies to be their service provider. And so at no charge to them, we are providing much needed services to underserved populations in the region. And we have contracts with agencies that serve older adults, that serve adults who have experienced head injuries or strokes, et cetera, other kinds of debilitating illnesses that impact their communication or swallowing. And with children, very young children, and some children in some parochial schools where SLPs are often not provided to parochial schools or they're not provided to parochial schools in the same way that they are to public schools. So we're helping some of the local parochial schools too. So those are kind of some unique features, but students have about 6 to 8 weeks of a clinical experience during each semester, and then 6 to 8 weeks of really intensive coursework. And that's how our program is laid out.
So it seems like hearing that, one of the maybe characteristics of a graduate of the Lewis SLP program is that they're going to have an exposure to, maybe potentially some more marginalized people within society. Is that part of the design? And do you have can you give a sense of some of the characteristics that, as you designed this program, you really wanted a Lewis SLP grad to have when they went to interview for their first job? That they could say this about themselves because of the way the program was designed.
Right. You're right, Dave. That was part of the design from the beginning. And one of the things that excited me about coming to Lewis University was being able to create some new, we call them Lewis University specialty clinics in the community, where our students and our faculty could do that outreach and touch the lives of people with communication and swallowing disorders that wouldn't otherwise have access to services. And of course, this is, intimately aligned with the mission of Lewis University and our program. And this was born out of an idea that I've had for a long time, which is that in speech language pathology, we've done such an excellent job of expanding our discipline and growing our numbers. SLP has been a growing profession since I entered the profession 40 years ago, and it just hasn't stopped. There's more and more need for SLPs all the time. But most speech language pathologists work in schools, hospitals, or healthcare agencies. And there are a lot of other places where individuals reside who have communication problems. And I've bumped into these people in these places. Some people in my life have needed these services and they just weren't there and they weren't available. So I want to make sure that the Lewis SLP has gone to some of these places and has seen the need of people. We need SLPs to be working in all kinds of places where they really are not currently working. And so our mission at Lewis University says that we're going to transform the discipline of speech language pathology. And this is how we intend to do it, by showing our students that there are people on the margins who just don't have access to speech language pathology. And I firmly believe that if students are taken into these environments and trained there, and they have to, experience the struggle that individuals with communication disorders have when they don't have access to any services, that this generation will be the generation of speech language pathologists that will break those barriers and make sure that we as a discipline are advocating and providing services where we currently are not. And so that is part of the design, and it is a lofty ambition, but I have every confidence that our students will move forward and accomplish those goals and be leaders in that kind of transformative movement in our discipline.
That's incredible. I mean, I feel like I want to try to summarize what you just said, because you said it very clearly and articulately, but it's also such a big idea that maybe we'll just slow down and say it one more time, and I'll probably say it more awkwardly than you did. But you're saying that the design of our curriculum, our program, is inspired by the mission, and including the way we do placements, is designed to prepare our graduates to enter communities impacted by poverty, and to do it with the cultural competency and the knowledge and the whole range of skills that's required to do well. And so that's one thing. And you're also preparing them and inspiring them, as well as your colleagues across the discipline, to think of this way of serving communities that have not been traditionally served by speech language pathology as a way to almost generationally transform the discipline and what it's capable of, or how it can serve the society more generally.
That's right. And I think, I know it is a big idea, but it's not just an idea, it's an attainable goal. And it has to start somewhere. And I'm really proud that it would start here. And I wish I could put into words how inspiring it is to watch our students in their very first semester out in these environments, and our faculty developing these clinics, because there's nothing in these places. I mean, they don't, we have to go and recruit the clients. We have to assess large numbers of people in these environments. And, the people that are working in these agencies, they're not used to referring anybody for speech language pathology services. So we have to educate them. We have to identify the clients. We have to work with their families. We have to make sure we're delivering services in very culturally appropriate and sensitive ways. We have to develop procedures at each of these. We're really, in essence, we're starting many private practices, like private clinics in these agencies. And right now we're in 6 different agencies in the region, and our faculty are starting something from nothing. And our students are seeing how that's done, and they're helping do it. And the stories that faculty and students are already telling me after just 6-7 weeks of this are just remarkable. And the people that we're serving are just so thrilled to have our students and our expert faculty there to do this. So, this is just the beginning of it. But I can't help but to believe that when we get to the end of that, when we finish preparing this first group, that they will have had a truly transformative experience. And as a matter of fact, one of their capstone requirements is to write a transformative essay about how their experiences in the program with the clients that they served transformed them, and from a good student to an entry-level speech language pathologist, and what their vision is for transforming the discipline of speech language pathology. And I can't wait to read those essays.
Well, that seems like such a great way to kind of end this session, because it's kind of taking people from the beginning to the end of their academic experience. And you, as Dr. Sin said, you just articulate it so well. And I want to, I'm just incredibly grateful that this really is a real gospel value in terms of going to the least among us, and serving those on the margins of society that really, are in pain, and are, the ones that don't have all the things that they want in society, can't articulate their ideas to others. So, I want to say thank you so much, and you inspire me in terms of the way that you've developed a program, and it's exciting to hear about the students and what they're doing so far in the community. I think you'll also transform the view that society has of SLPs. Not just that you'll transform the field, but some of these people wouldn't know necessarily that these services were available, and certainly may not think that an SLP would come to their community center, to their school, and help them out. So thank you for that. Dr. Sin, I don't know if you want to add anything?
Yeah, I know we're running short on time, so I'm resisting my temptation to ask more questions, which I know we didn't get to talk about your scholarship, which I just want everyone to know is really substantial, and please look that up. And since we don't have time to talk about it, and also we didn't really talk too much about telehealth, and I know that's on a lot of people's minds right now, or we're using it a lot, and it's something that I'm really pleased about and proud about this program, is that we're really prepared from the beginning in the design of the program, but obviously really embracing it right now in our current situation to be able to help our students to be able to have those skills as well. But no, I have nothing much more to add besides that enthusiasm. And I also just, you know, last week we talked about computer engineering, and it was just so beautiful to see how it was aligned with our mission and our Lasallian values. And it's just wonderful to see it again here with this program. So thank you so much, Tina.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
I just want to say
Go ahead,
really
Tina.
quickly that I would like to express my appreciation for Lewis University giving space for this kind of program to be developed. That's really a blessing, because most universities won't entertain, you know, employing their own faculty to go out and do something like this in the community. And the support that I and the faculty have received for this has paved the way for this idea to be able to kind of come into fruition in the community. And so, you know, that's no small thing in any way. And we're just so thankful that we have this opportunity to develop this program. So thanks to both of you and everybody at Lewis for, you know, working with me for 2 years to get it to this point. Thank you so much.
Oh, no, it's great. It's really been a privilege to, you know, watch this kind of from its nascent form, and interviewing you when you were a candidate for this job and hearing of your vision, and then watching it actually come to the point where we have 37 really eager and excited students that are, you know, that are turning into SLP professionals. So that's great. So, you know, thank you for everything. It seems to me like, you know, maybe a year from now, we're going to have you back to talk about this and some other things, and maybe talk about your research and some of the research of your faculty colleagues in this area and how this has turned out in terms of transforming the region. I know we're very committed to Lewis really being a part of the community and helping to solve problems and make our really local community around here a more just place to live. So, so thank you for your contributions to that. You know, I'll just wrap this up as I usually do. You know, please stay committed to keeping everyone around you healthy and safe. We are grateful for all that you're doing, and we're excited about what we've achieved to date. But we have to stay focused on being a place where members of our community feel respected, they feel cared for, and they feel safe. So if you can, you know, stay focused on that, we're incredibly grateful for all you're doing, faculty, staff, and students. And just want to, you know, say once again, many blessings to you and your family and those that you love, and have a great week. We'll see you next week.